clap and dance around every time I hear that intro. So awesome. I love it. Happy New Year, everybody. Today is January 4th, 2021. It's 11:31 a.m. here in the city of Pasadena, California, the United States of America. Well, guess what today's topic is going to be on? It's going to be on trans stuff. Yes, transgender. Why transgender? Because I'm transgender. I'm female to male transgender, meaning I was born assigned female at birth. And when I got older, I realized that that assignment wasn't true for me. So, this is a little difficult to talk about, I'm not going to lie. And it's a little difficult to talk about because I don't want to represent anybody in the wrong way. I don't want to say anything wrong or misidentify anybody. But when I speak, it's speaking my truth. It's speaking my life and what I've gone through and what's been true for me. So I apologize ahead of time if I insult anybody in any way who identifies as transgender or any other identification. For that case, I'm doing my best. I'm learning as I go. This is all new to me too. I'm 40 years old. This is a new world for me. The newer generation, they've got the advantage of having their identities spoken for, already defined for them. I had to come up with my own definition because definitions for how I felt did not exist. And now there's all kinds of definitions and vocabulary words that I'm learning myself. I get misgendered by my family, and it's not because I look female. I look very male. If you'd like to know what I look like, you can go on my website at www.alittlelessfear.com. I've been in my transition from female to male, meaning taking hormonal therapy, for 6.5 years, a little over 6.5 years actually. In May will be my 7th year. I would like to tell you that it hasn't been an easy journey. It's been a very difficult journey because of what I've gone through emotionally, physically, mentally with my family. First coming out as a lesbian and then being bisexual and then going back to lesbian. It just seemed like I was always, in their eyes, I think, that they felt I was always confused. Do I like men? Do I like women? Why do I dress like a boy sometimes? Why do I dress like a girl sometimes? To be very honest, brutally honest here, it was very, very painful having to identify as a female and having to dress like a female for the comfort of my family and the comfort of society. I don't have any regrets being a female for so long and have been gone through what I've gone through, and I don't have any regrets because it took all of that for me to be able to figure out who I was deep down and why I felt the way that I did. I have a book coming out this year called A Little Less Fear, and in my book I also talk about my journey of being a trans man and things that I've gone through and went through with my growing up in a Catholic Latino household where gender roles are clearly stated. Men are men and women are women, and that's the way it's got to be. And my mom raised me where females need to be as feminine as possible. You gotta wear makeup, you gotta wear heels, you gotta have your nails done. You never know who you're gonna bump into. A woman should always look as feminine as possible. So you best believe I had bows in my hair. I had all kinds of dresses and skirts and heels and all kinds of stuff to identify and be as pure as I could as a female. Identify as a female, to continue those quote-unquote norms of society. But I didn't feel that way. I always felt like I was wearing a costume. And this is the part that's really hard for me to explain to people when people are confronted with me for the first time being in front of a trans person and them asking me, well, I've had some people ask me, I clearly don't understand, but I only see you as you, and they only feel me as male, which is exactly what I'm getting at. However you feel about somebody is most likely how they are inside and who they are as a person. Also, want to point out that whether my listeners are spiritual or not, I'm hoping that I can expand your mind and your heart and your soul to be, because spirituality is very, very powerful, and it's what grounds us. It's our inner light. That's our spirit. I have not changed. My spirit hasn't changed. I've been the same person. Person is identified as this human body with my soul in mind. That combination, um, that combination is a tough one. But the true light of the fire that ignites me is more of a male energy. We need to understand as a human species that we have evolved through many eons, and through all this evolution we have been countless times both genders, male and female. Even if you look at your DNA and you look at your ancestry, you're a combination of males and females and souls and spirits and people from your past lives. All this DNA combination makes up who you are today. And there's feminine and masculine energies. And without that balance, we don't have sanity. So I can clearly state that I am both spirits, male and female. But the one that I feel I mostly identify with is the male spirit. I feel mostly close to the male spirit. Perhaps since I am a past life believer, perhaps in my past life I did more good deeds as a male and felt more pure as a male and happier as a male. Maybe I've had better experiences as a man than I did as a female, because that has been true so far. Since I have transitioned into a man in this life, doors have opened for me. When I was a female, not only was I unhappy and depressed and just all over the place, emotionally, mentally, physically, things weren't aligned for me. Even my health wasn't aligned for me. Yes, I have a genetic disease, but there were no answers for me back then. The answers came when I started transitioning into my true self. That's when I found out what I had. I found out that I had Muckle-Well syndrome when I was already male identified. Doors opened for me because I became my true, authentic self. I saw a stand-up with, what's his name? Oh my goodness, I can't think of his name right now. I'm so sorry to have the silence on here. But anyways, comedian, when his name comes back up, I will let you know. But he was saying something about how he didn't understand transgenders, and how he's not going to one day wake up the next day and say, I feel Asian, and then be Asian. They've got it all wrong. And people like that are being really dominating with their beliefs and their beliefs only, rather than being flexible with their approach and thought. It's more like it's going to be really difficult for people that are heavy-minded, people that put blocks in their mind, to understand what it would be like to have another mind, because that's the only mind they know. And it takes a lot of compassion. It takes compassion to understand people, to love people. The more love and compassion you have in your heart, the more you're able to put yourself in other people's shoes, in other people's places, and see where their ideas stem from. It comes from love, really. Imagine yourself looking in the mirror, and when you look in the mirror, it's a different face, not the one that you think you have. It's a different face, it's a different body. That is really the best way I can describe it, because anytime I would look in the mirror before I transitioned, I was not happy with what I saw, and clearly I was an attractive female. Yeah, I'm gonna admit it, I was a pretty hot chick, okay? But I was not full of myself, I'll tell you that much. I was not full of myself, but I was confused. Men and women were drawn to me. It was just, it was difficult for me, because though I may have been an attractive woman, though I may have had an attractive body and face, that wasn't who I was. And when I looked in the mirror, it didn't identify. It didn't match with the person, the light that was inside of me, the fire that was burning inside me. It was not the same fire. And what actually got me to change and realize that who I was before I even found out the term transgender. I knew that there was a male inside me, but I didn't know how to identify about it. And this happened 20 years ago when I was with my first long-term girlfriend. I had told her that I felt like a male inside, and what made me realize this was hanging out at a party with a bunch of lesbians. I realized when I was hanging out with these lesbians that there was clearly gender roles. I saw masculine and feminine in the relationships. I saw couples. One was the quote unquote guy, and one was the girl. I just saw the energies were that's kind of what balanced them out, male and female energies, and sorry, masculine and feminine energies. And I remember asking one of the masculine lesbians if she ever felt like a man when she was with her girlfriend. And she looked me dead in the eye and she said, "No, I am a woman. I'm a lesbian and I feel like a woman when I'm with my girlfriend." And I remember joking it off and being like, "Oh yeah, I'm just asking, just wondering, I feel the same way." I remember being silly and funny about it because that's always been my way to get away with uncomfortable feelings, is kind of telling a joke here and there. But clearly I was uncomfortable because I was trying to figure out why I felt the way I did. And then I asked another quote unquote, and I say quote unquote because I don't want to misgender anybody or insult anybody, but I saw another more masculine woman identified as a lesbian with her girlfriend, and I had asked her in private if she ever felt like a man when she was with her girlfriend. And she said the same thing. She said, "No, I'm a lesbian and I'm proud of it," and blah blah blah. And I said, "Okay, cool." And I remember that night telling my girlfriend, "You know what? I realized that I'm a guy inside, because when I'm with you alone, when my guard is down, the doors are closed, it's you and I alone, I feel like a man. This is my comfort level. My brain, my mind thinks like a male's mind." And she saw it. She saw me for me. She helped me be okay with that. And that's kind of where we left it after that. I still identified as a lesbian because there was no other way to identify back then 20 years ago. I was a lesbian that had male feelings inside, and I had to let it go. But letting it go wasn't that easy, I'll tell you that much. For the next 20 years after that, I suffered a lot with, again, still going back in men, teeter-tottering between men and women. Just, sexually men pleased me, but I wasn't there emotionally with them. But women, I was there in both levels, sexually and emotionally. I was really, really confused how I'm supposed to identify. How am I supposed to be if I can't be? So, when I was 34 years old, that was my last girlfriend. I'm 40 years old now. I will be 41 on January 19th. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, early birthday. What's up, Capricorn? Shout out to all the Capricorns out there right now. Love you all, love you all, love you all. But anyways, rewind. I was 34 years old with my last girlfriend, and that's actually the last girl I've ever even dated, and the last girl I've really, truly, passionately made out with and had sexual relationships. It's been a long time. I've been sexually sober. I'm okay with that right now so far. Kinda. Not really. Not always, but sometimes. But anyways, she knew how I felt, and she was with me in the beginning of my transition. And the way it started for me was I started doing a lot of research about, how people that, what happened was Chaz Bono came out as trans, and I was like, what? What's going on? Trans, he changed? How did that happen? And then I saw that he had his top surgery, he had his breast removed and all this stuff, and how Cher kind of had a hard time with it in the beginning, and I started thinking, like, wait a minute, maybe this is me. How do I know if this is me or not? So I went on YouTube and I researched female to males, and also Tumblr at the time, and I started seeing all these trans guys. Most of them were younger, trans guys, meaning female to males. And I started doing a lot of research. How did they do it? How did they know? And all their stories were very similar to mine. I have a male brain. I think like a guy. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is me. This is my identity. I finally found my true identity. And this started to feel awesome. I felt like a teenager again. Like, wow, when you're a teenager and you start exploring and identifying with yourself. And girls, if you're girls, you start wearing lipstick, or maybe not lipstick, maybe doing your nails, maybe not doing your nails, or doing your hair different. So I started doing different things to myself, dressing more masculine and getting rid of my feminine clothes. And that felt more comfortable, more true to me. But the challenge was going to be, how was I going to tell my family? How was I going to tell my loved ones? Did it matter? Yeah, it mattered. But what truly mattered was me being happy. Because if I'm not happy, and I'm speaking for everybody out there in the world, if you're not happy, you can't be you. Who are you? How do you know who you are? You know who you are because that little voice inside you, that little voice that speaks when tells you what's right or wrong, that is your light. That little voice, that little sound, those little thoughts, or if not a sound, if you're deaf, that feeling that you have when you're alone or when you're listening to something good or something makes you laugh or smile or dance, that's inherently you. That's your light. That's what lights you up. That's your fire. And you have to light up in order to be happy and enjoy life and keep going with full force. That's how you're going to benefit other people. Your happiness radiates and people radiate with you. And it's just contagious after that. What radiated me, what ignited me, was starting my life over. And starting my life over at 34 meant transitioning from female to male. I also made that decision because after going through so many surgeries from a genetic disease that's incurable, I remember thinking many times when I was in the hospital, I did not ask to be born with this genetic disease. I did not ask to have my bladder removed. I had to have it done in order for me to keep going, in order for me to live, in order for me to survive and to have a progressive, sustainable, positive, loving life. I had to go through these surgeries to save myself. But the only other thing that I wanted to do to save myself was be me. Because if you're not yourself, how are you going to save yourself? It just, wasn't making any sense. And I thought to myself, you know what? This is the time for me to do it. What I am asked to be, to have been born, if I would have been asked again, how would you like to be born? I'd like to be born a boy. So I started hormonal therapy in May of 2014. And that month, my girlfriend and I also broke up, and we broke up. I broke up with her, and it was very, very difficult thing to do because she was one of the best, most loving, awesome, honest girlfriends that I've had in a very long time. And the only thing that concerned me was she would ask me questions like if I was going to have my breasts removed, if I was going to get facial hair. And she told me how she didn't like it when her uncles would kiss her on the cheek and the beard would like scruff up against her cheek. Like, she wasn't a fan of that stuff. I mean, clearly she was with me in a lesbian relationship and she wasn't going to be happy if I transitioned. And those were my thoughts. And I needed a clean slate without having, any negative thought with my transition. It was going to be a life-changing event. And I didn't think that a trans man would be compatible with the person that identified at the time as a lesbian. So I broke up with her, and it was really difficult, but I had to. And it was also it's been a long journey since in finding myself and being born again. So now I want to tell you how difficult it's been for me transitioning at a later age. Oftentimes meaning like the first 4 years of my transition, I had some jealousy when I would go on Instagram and see the many trans men that are in their 20s or even in their teens or even their early 30s transitioning because they were able to transition earlier than I was. And the benefit that they have is that they're able to go through stages in life for a longer period of time in their right, proper gender. I missed out on being a boy as a baby. I missed out on being ages 1 through 10 as a boy. I don't know what it's like for it to be okay to play with other boys and be a boy and fall down and get injured and get a broken bone and not be like, girls don't do that. Girls don't do that. I don't know what it's like. I'll never know what it's like in this life, at least. And also, I won't know what it's like to go through a regular puberty. What's it like to be a teenage boy going through puberty? For me to be having premature ejaculations, or for me to be having wet dreams, or for me to have crushes on girls or crushes on boys, or when you're young and you're innocent. I don't know any of that. I only know my life as a female because I was raised that way. And now all of a sudden, 6.5 years later, I'm supposed to be a 40-year-old grown-ass man. I'm not a grown-ass man. I'm going to tell you that much. How old am I? You know what? I've lived 40 years. 40 years is what I've lived. And my experience is based on my education. My experience is based on my experience as a full-time patient in hospitals. And my experience as a man is only 6.5 years. That's not a long time. So I'm learning. I'm learning to be male. What it is to be male. What is it to be male anyway? And there's feminine men, there's masculine men, and I really want to be what I feel, and what I feel is a balance between the both, which is masculine and feminine. That's what feels most comfortable for me, being a good balance. In everything, a balance feels great. Yesterday, one of my friends came over, and I told her that I wanted this podcast. We discussed what my first podcast would be, episode 1. Here it is. And she said, well, what about trans, about your transgender? And she told me that I'm basically the first trans man she's ever met. So I asked her, I wanted to know, what are the questions that you would have for a trans man? So here I go with some of the questions that she had, and I'm going to do my best to answer them. She wanted to know if it was difficult emotionally, physically, and mentally transitioning into a man. And yes, she mentioned how she can imagine that putting a dress on or interactions with other female might have been uncomfortable. And yes, the answer is yes to all of that. I remember being a female, and if other women would dress in front of me, I would look away. Almost instinctively, I would look away out of respect. And it wasn't because I felt ashamed or anything like that. It was an instinctual respect, look away when a woman changes. And I never ever fully felt comfortable girl on girl, like, hey, let's get naked together. That wasn't really comfortable for me. So yeah, that was difficult. And I never knew how to act in front of females either. I would often slip and flirt with girls in the worst ways too. When I was with other girls, I was just really inappropriate. And it was really, now that I think back, it was my innocence of a young boy's mind acting out. I didn't know how to act as this young boy mind growing up in a female developing body. It was really challenging. So I would say inappropriate things. I would flirt with a lot of people, and in turn made myself feel really uncomfortable at the end, because who was I being at that point? I was kind of in between two transitions, and that was really challenging. Putting a dress on was humiliating for me. I never enjoyed wearing a dress. I never enjoyed wearing high heels or getting my nails done. I don't miss it. I don't miss any of it, and I never want to go back. Not even for Halloween will I dress up like a female. That's how much over I am of it. Maybe if I would have transitioned earlier, 20 years ago, like when I was in my 20s, maybe dressing up like a female, wearing makeup later for Halloween wouldn't be so bad. But the fact that I did it for the first 34 years of my life, I'm over that. So anyways, that is, yes, mentally it was a struggle. And having, when people would say, to see how feminine I was or compare me to celebrities that were feminine, it just really made me look deeper within. Who am I? So the next question here, how comfortable they are in their own skin. Are you trying to focus? Okay, so she was basically asking me if when I date, would I, and I'm paraphrasing her. Let's see here. If I would be so focused on myself and my insecurities, if I have insecurities as a new man when I'm with a woman, would I be so focused on my insecurities that I wouldn't focus on them? That is a very good question, and that could be a reason why I'm still single. One of the reasons why I'm still single. Yeah, I've got many insecurities. Of course I got insecurities. I mean, first of all, who doesn't have insecurities? Second of all, I'm a new man. Yeah, I've got insecurities. I had top surgery. I had a double mastectomy 3 years ago. My body is barely growing, developing, getting muscular. I have a nice hairy chest. I'm going to admit it. I love my hairy chest. My legs, I still feel need a lot of work. I still see femininity. Yeah, all this stuff is called gender dysphoria for the people that don't know what I'm talking about. Gender dysphoria means that you're still seeing the other gender that you used to be, and that it brings some anxiety. So yeah, I've got some gender dysphoria going on, but I I mean, I haven't really been with anybody at all. So, and I also think that if I find somebody, when I find somebody, that particular person hopefully will be able to help me realize that my true essence isn't this body. My true essence is the light, and remind me, and and I'm hoping that with love and through love, our love connection won't matter whether my legs look feminine still or whatnot, or my height or whatever, because I do believe that there's one for everyone. There's many of us for many of us. There's one for all of us. There's one for one of us. There's one for all of us. One for all and all for one. So it's inevitable. Love is inevitable as long as you keep loving. And I'm really hoping that when I find a person, I will be comfortable to share their light as well and help them through their insecurities when they come up. So the next question, how comfortable are you telling others, and do you inform people right away about being transgender? That's also a great question. How comfortable am I telling others? Well, I am not that comfortable telling others, but it is my first episode, and I'm breaking my fear of telling people by making it my first episode, because with a little less fear, you can go a long way. So I can't hide from the fact that I was born a female, and that this is my true calling now, and this is my true self now. As a young man, though I'm 40 years of life, I'm still living my life as a young man, an inexperienced man. The only experience I have as a man is claiming that I'm a man and looking like a man and having my name as a man and my body as a man. By the way, yes, I do have a penis. I have a small penis, and I'm happy with it. I love it very much, to be honest with you. I love it. AKA baby carrot. Anyways, what else? What other surgeries have I had? I've had a hysterectomy, and I had that done over a year ago. Complete hysterectomy. Yay! Don't ever have to worry about a menstrual cycle again. Never have to worry about cervical cancer again. And don't have to worry about any other things I have to do with being a female ever again. That's pretty awesome. So I'm in a really good place now. Clear headspace as a man. Oh yes, back to the question. Am I comfortable telling others? So, and do I tell people right away? No, I don't tell people right away, because I don't feel that it needs to be said. I mean, I don't need to wear a shirt that says, "Hi, I'm trans," or anything like that. I'm a human being. You know, we're all from the same planet. That's really what I am. I'm a human being, just like most of the people I hope that are listening to this. And in this human precious life, I'm taking this essence, and I'm not telling people right away that I'm trans. If it comes up, then it comes up. If they ask me about it, or if they find out somehow, or if it gets to that point, then yes, I will say that, and I will say it confidently with a little less fear every time. So the next question, I want to say that no question is a stupid question, by the way. There is no such thing as a stupid question, because without questions, we won't know. Genital parts. Yes, so my friend wanted to know about genital parts. Well, here it is. So you can have a trans man that's intersex, that has both. An intersex person is a person that's born with both genitals, a penis and a vagina, or a penis and fallopian tubes and a uterus, or a small developing penis and a vagina. Yes, you can have an intersex person who is whose parents or family can. I don't know if they're doing that these days, but at least back in my days, if they had an intersex child, they would choose their child's gender for them, how they were going to be raised. Okay, well, you've got both. I'm going to raise you a boy. And then that boy ends up feeling like a girl, or vice versa. So yes, you can have a person that transitions from the gender that they were first identified with to how they end up being later in life. And yes, you can have a trans man with only a vagina. Yes, you can have a trans man with a new penis, neophallus, or completely reconstructed penis called a phalloplasty or a metoidioplasty. Yes. It's all possible. And how is it possible? It's possible because everything's in the mind. It's not in physical form. So, what am I trying to say with that? What I'm trying to say with that is that when you feel that you identify mostly to a certain, let's say for me, for example, I identify mostly male, so I would identify more with a penis, with my penis. Yes, I've got a penis, so now my penis. Oh, and I have a vagina too, by the way. Yes, I have both. I have a vagina and I have a penis, and I'm happy with it. And the reason for me keeping both and having both and not closing my vagina or going for the other is because of the fact, the first most important thing is that I have a neobladder. I lost my urinary bladder from Muckle-Well syndrome, and my doctors had to make me a bladder out of my small intestine. This would be a whole other segment, a whole other episode when I talk about genetic diseases. But to make the long story short, I need an easy access in case that ever needs any type of reconstruction. And lo and behold, I have that opening. So for whatever reason that I was incarnated as a female rather than the true male spirit that I felt I mostly inherited, could have been because I knew what my life was going to be like in the future. Maybe, I'm speculating, and having a vagina was going to save me in that case. And it has. It saved me by having an easier access to my neo bladder whenever I need it. I'm not having any sex, so I don't need it sexually. And I'm not having any kids, so I don't need it to bear any children. So, yes, there it is with genital parts and trans. You can be anything in between, just like the spectrum. You know, people have heard the gender spectrum. I hope people have heard about the gender spectrum. Basically, the gender spectrum is that everybody falls somewhere in between. Everybody is male or female, and you might feel more of the other, and more than one than the other, even on certain days, depending on your hormonal levels. Sometimes you feel more in charge, more of the masculine energy. Sometimes you feel more submissive, whatever. So a lot of it's hormone related as well. Let's see here. So the next question, I'll ask her how she understands trans. She said to me, spirit matches. Yes. Well, so I asked my friend, how does she understand trans? Like, now that she knows me, how does she understand it? And she had it right on. She said, and I'm quoting her exactly, the spirit matches their outer skin. That was awesome. And I'm talking to my friend Crystal. Shout out Crystal Escato. Crystal, yes, spirit matches the outer skin. That is exactly true. But how do we explain this to people that don't believe in spirits and stuff like that? And I'm going to call out my dad on that because he doesn't believe in spirits and souls and stuff. So that it's been really challenging. The only thing that made him understand was this is how I feel. And that's it. I feel more male. The times that I tried wearing a suit when I was a kid and you guys told me not to, guess what? I wanted to wear a suit because that felt real to me. Okay, so let's see here. Next question. Let's see. Severe health is not devastating. This is a sexual decision. This is who I am. I guess this is it for now. My next episode will continue on gender identity, and I will be interviewing Transman, non-binary, identified as they, Van Levy. And I will be interviewing him next week on Gender Identities. That is his newest book, and it's available on Amazon. And I read the book. It's very educating. I think that books like that need to be in public schools because they don't teach you this stuff. At least they didn't teach me this stuff. But if they start teaching this stuff, we're going to get a better grasp of the spectrum that's out there, and we're not going to automatically assume that everybody's heterosexual. This life is not black and white, ladies and gentlemen. We're living a very colorful world. Even if you're colorblind, you can feel different feelings. That's still the same definition of color. Whatever you feel, all the different feelings, that's all color. So I'm going to end this here. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks to my followers and all my hearers, listeners, however I want to call it. My YouTube channel will be up soon. Until then, we will talk next week. Thanks so much. Wishing everybody much love and peace in the new year. Much gratitude, grace, everything for the goodwill of man. I love you all very much. Over and out, 10-4.